never come back again. It's got a death curse. It's got a death curse.
Drop.
We have the writer and director of the horror thriller Alone Together, which right now you can check out on Prime Video and Tubi, streaming right now for your spooky visual pleasure. I'd like to welcome on right now Will Kresch. Will, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. I do have to say, co-writer,
Yes.
A.V. Vernonbach. I'm not one to be, stealing credit and everything. I did as much as I could, but it was definitely a team effort with that one. So I appreciate that.
It's funny because I knew I was going to mess it up. I wanted
not
to
at
say
all.
co-writer, but thank you for fixing that.
No, not at all. It's just my savage ego won't allow me to take more credit than I already have. So.
Oh man, bless you. Well, first of all, congratulations on the film, because this thing, when I was able to watch it, was such a spooky thriller atmosphere with a now today vibe because of things that we go through. And to give our listeners just a kind of background of the movie, it is about a couple that is surviving through a pandemic, and they decide to go to a cabin which the boyfriend, his family owns, and they've already have toxicity in said relationship, and it all comes shining throughout this movie. I want to ask, where did the idea for this movie first come to fruition? Was it during our actual pandemic, or is that something that came along after?
Yeah, it definitely spawned directly out of the pandemic. I was living in Brooklyn during that very first peak and height of it. And it was just, it was freaky, just because of the unknown. No one knew what was going to happen next. We were holed up, sirens running outside of the window every night. Those opening scenes were shot in my apartment in Brooklyn. There are people in my building who had passed away that were being carried out in stretchers. And it was just like, holy shit, this is really scary. And my buddy, A.V. Bach, he is a writer. He's a novelist. He's fantastic. He came to me with this idea about a toxic couple and kind of like a ghost story in reverse, where the ghost not only tortures them, but also kind of leads her to find her liberation through this haunting. So kind of just like a little bit inside out. And I felt like there was so much to it. And I felt like this setting was so ripe because everyone was just going through so much. And that desire to escape was so, visceral to everyone. And then the idea of kind of, jumping out of the frying pan and into the fryer, that's kind of where this came from. Yeah.
I think there's a great line in the movie of, do you ever feel like we escaped the hell to get to another hell? Like, that's exactly where this movie was leading you, because there is backstory. There's things that you delve into, which I don't want to spoil, obviously, because I want people to check it out on Prime Video and Tubi right now.
Thank you.
But like, it is wild that it really shows you don't know someone too well. I think you guys did a really good job of telling that story, whether one character to another. There is some that is in people's lives that you just truly don't know. And the fact that they were discovering that in this situation is bonkers. And I kind of felt for both of them, even though there's struggles.
I mean, absolutely true. There's so much about the people that you let into your life, especially in relationships, where you can't know the complete person for a while. It kind of unfolds, and there is always that mystery. Even if you're living with someone, even if you've known them for many years as one version of themselves or in one setting, when you go to their home turf, or when you go to somewhere else that's kind of like where they come from, you really just don't know what to get and what you're going to get. And this is kind of that like Pandora's box thing, where it's like you're in a relationship, it doesn't feel right, and things hurt, and there is abuse, and you think that maybe it's where you are, maybe it's all the other things that are pressing from the outside in. But then when you leave and you're faced with that person or yourself, there's no escaping it. And I think that was one of like the most kind of gripping parts of this story for me was it's like, you know, the ghost is kind of what you take with you. And if, you know, if hell is other people or evil comes from within, you know, the call is coming from inside the house. It's like,
Right.
once you, no matter where you go, when you're faced with the realization that you can't escape it, you really end up with two choices. And it's, you know, die, be
Right.
consumed by it, or
Right.
fight your way out. And that's where Nastia is she's kind of thrust into this situation. And then, sorry, you definitely had another piece to that question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I think you've led with it. And Nasia, she's incredible. Like your actress.
Couldn't agree more.
Deanna Wright, correct?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Deanna S. Wright. Yep, she plays Nasia, and she
fantastic.
is like wild.
And I'm just going on a limb. Is Matt your family member?
Yeah, Matt's my brother. Matt's my younger brother. That's right.
Yeah, like he's tremendous in this film. Did you always know it was just going to be a 2-person movie? Because this movie feels like almost like Saw, low budget, one place, isolated, and I condone you for like, congrats, because to make an independent movie and also just have 2 leads the entire time is very impressive to do. Was that scary to kind of tell that?
I mean, absolutely. Everything you mentioned there is totally true. You know, indie filmmaking it's so hard. And no matter what I thought it was going to be, whatever I was thinking, it was so much more labyrinthine with the amount of, you know, things that can go wrong, the difficulty with all the practical things, but also having 2 actors was a practical decision, because if you know you can rely on these people and they can carry the movie, then that's what you're doing here. You know, you're getting Nastia, I mix up her name because to me she's Nastia and Deanna. They're like kind of the same person to me sometimes. You know, you got to give your star the ball and let her run. And that's what I was constantly trying to do, is just get her in that scene, put her in that situation, and just let her do her thing. Because like, you know, one of my pitches to her from before we started shooting was, listen, no matter what happens with the movie, you're going to be awesome. And even if there's just scenes of you that are awesome, this will make your career. Just letting people see how good you are will get you another chance at the big screen. And I'm just so thrilled with how she, I mean, it was really hard. You know, the things that we were asking her to do, everything is so emotional. Everything is such a grind. It was really, really rough doing all of those really just painful moments. She seized on so many things from her own experiences and relationships. So asking her to like dip into that lava like every day was a lot. But I knew that, you know, I had seen her and my brother do some Shakespeare together down in the Asolo Rep down in Florida at FSU. And there was just like something, I'm like, what's going on here? These guys, like, there's something going on here. So I pitched them both on it as like, it's going to be you guys. It's going to be like, you know, 1v1, you know, we'll see who survives at the end. And they were so game for it. And it's just really kind of like letting them rip, I think, was like what I needed to do. And, you know, when you see her up there, there's a couple, it's like, I never had thought of this before this process, but sometimes you are looking for like, what's that trailer moment, you know, what's that thing? And there's like this one slow push where she's like breaking down, and there's another one, wide open eyes, and just the tear just like pops out of her face. You're like, whoa. I mean, that she gave us some incredible magic, and I'll be forever grateful for her commitment to doing something so difficult on such a lean, rough, tight budget.
Right. Did you sound so passionate about it, and you seem like the leader for it. Did you always know that you were going to direct it?
Yeah, well, it's funny because, again, coming out of the pandemic, I had worked in indie film when I first started. You know, right out of college, I was a production designer and then set designer, and did a bunch of indie movies, which was cool. But I was living in New York City in Brooklyn, and it was really difficult work. It wasn't paying great, but I did love it. And I kind of like sidestepped and started doing a bunch of sports and entertainment stuff, working for like NBC, CBS, like all those, you know, the big corporate things. You know, had like another life, and, you know, I won some Emmys doing that. And it's like, it was a great place for me to like really, you know, hone a craft and stuff like that. and I was writing all along and doing a ton of writing for like, you know, TV shows and things like that. And it's like life just kind of goes really fast, and all of a sudden a bunch of years go by, and I had always wanted to be a director, and it wasn't until the pandemic that everything stopped cold, dead. And it was like, whoa, if I don't get a project together that I can direct right now, it's never going to happen. You know, like I needed that space. And the other major factor was my wife. We had just got pregnant, and we were super stoked about this, but I'm like, if I don't put this movie in the can before he, you know, escapes his containment, I'm never going to do this. There's no way I can just, you know, go to Vermont and not be, you know, I'd like to put my whole life away for X amount, a month, 2 months or whatever. When I have a proper dad with an infant, or when I have, you know, full-time 12-hour days in sports and TV and everything. So when that little opportunity happened, Bach had hit me with the script. I saw it in my head a certain way. And I'm like, listen, you write it, we'll write it together, and I will figure the rest out. And I had been really blessed. I went to Syracuse University, and so many people from my days at Syracuse, my best friend, my roommate from, you know, 2000, we graduated in 2009. So it's a long time ago, but my best friend, Eric Wrights, he's the producer of the movie. He got this thing together with me. My DP, what's it called? Art department, my colorist, Jo, editor, Dunya Rodriguez, my AD, like all of my people, they'd all went
all the favors.
You know, every last dude. I begged everyone. I'm like, listen, come on this pirate ship with me. Like, I can see the whale. I can see it. It's over there. And and also, you know, people's schedules were still kind of soft, and it was like right as things opened up, I had everything like ready to go. Getting money was a whole nother thing, but I got everyone to come on board with me, and they were like, you know, blood brothers, family, friends, and they just put in so much. Everyone did 5 jobs. I could never afford any of these people if it was the real world, but because it was in this little thing, they all came and did this. So that's kind of like, that's why I knew I had to direct something, because I wanted to look in my son's eyes at some point and be able to say, listen, man, if you go all in on something, you can do it. You just have to kill yourself for it. And if I didn't do it myself, it's just going to be words. And like I just couldn't live with that. So this was me making something, whether it worked out or not, whether it's good or bad, I can look at him and say, Remy, you got to go all in on something, and you got to believe in yourself, and you got to do it, and you got to try. And that's kind of where that's why I had to direct this movie.
It feels very Kevin Smith of you. Like, it really does. Like, you took it in your own hands. You got everything done. You truly were the director of everything in this.
Yeah. And I mean, I just got so lucky with having a really, really great tribe. The people around me were the only reason this would ever happen. You know, you cannot take down the mastodon alone. You need people with spears. You need friends who are going to take that risk with you. And also, you know, getting the money financially was, I mean, that's like, I still don't exactly know how it actually happened, but like so many of my early investors were like my best buddies who knew I was like crazy about this, and like threw me a little bit here, threw me a little bit there, and kind of that snowball effect, and built it together. And yeah, I mean, that's cool. I'll take the Kevin Smith thing. He's a Jersey guy. Like, I'm into that. I'm a Jersey guy. I'm all about it. But you know, it's not to say that I was ever alone at any point.
Right. No, you obviously, I meant that as much as a, like, I'm just going to take the bull by the horns, do it myself. Like you said, I think you had a very good inspiration of your kid coming into this world, and it really put that gun to flame to go.
Absolutely.
So I'm big into horror, and I think that's where this really connected with me, because you have a lot of psychological, you have some gore that does show up in this. And I was very impressed with that. Do you have an affinity to horror thriller? Is that why you wanted to make a thriller?
Yeah, it's so funny because it's definitely a thriller. And when we had first got our first cut done, I'm like, man, I hope people at a horror festival aren't going to be pissed that this is here. You know, like, because it is kind of like on the, you know, the edges of a couple of different genres, which I always liked. And I think mostly I'm a military history guy, and
Mm,
in my brain that is horror, like, so that's just
right.
kind of how it fits in that framework. And I've just been binging Ari Aster, and I wanted to make something that was, anything I was going to do was going to be like a little spooky, I guess. And my favorite movie is American Werewolf in London, which I'm sure I'm
Nice.
not alone with that.
No, right.
But it's like something about that thrill of horror, because I really don't like slasher movies. Like this, it's not really something I like to watch. But damn,
Hmm.
I love making it for sure, because like there's that confluence of like magic and like the sleight of hand of a good movie, also like cornering your audience and laying some traps and like putting them exactly where they want to be. And like you
Right.
owe them a lot of things in a horror movie to make it like
Oh,
really like work, like the payoff, like certain things. I knew it wasn't going to be jump scare for me, but it was more about like I really like that concept of generational trauma, like,
hmm,
and ghosts, and how that's kind of the same thing, where it's like
hmm,
the abuse of a father can take root in a son and manifest in a worse way, and
right.
like that's a ghost in a certain way,
Right.
so I thought that like playing with some of those kind of things on the edges would be where I would be best suited for. And yeah, I mean, if the
Like,
the kill the like, not that there's like a huge amount of kills, but I'm like, I knew I wanted to do one that was going to be like, savage enough to earn like a, yeah, okay, that gets into Screamfest,
that
cool,
gets
that's cool.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's you hit it on the head. Hey, you said the thing you did,
Nice.
because I think that's what was really impressive is that it's full of tension through it, and there is a moment, and not giving it away, when the moment happens. Not only did I not see how it was going to be done, that really impressed me, but the gore effect was pretty top notch. Did you bring in someone? Did you call that favor into a really good special effects artist? Because it's really gnarly.
Oh man, I'm so thrilled to hear you say that, because that was one of the things where like it was the shoot was brutally hard, and it was getting cold up in Vermont, and that was
Hmm.
our like only, we had one or two other big night shoots, but the big night shoots are expensive, all hands on deck, it's cold, it's late, and then you're
Right.
doing a ton of blood effects. And I had Becca Paulette was helping us with the makeup and stuff, but the actual stunt and all that, so my brother does a lot of stunt acting and stuff like that.
Hmm.
We worked it out together, him and I, and we just kind of like, we just did it real. There was no, I mean,
Wow.
we did end up cleaning it up with some post effects,
Hmm.
but we had the BTS of that is actually really fun, because it's just some saran wrap between two trees, and my brother running 120 miles an hour just into it as hard as he possibly could, and then like doing a couple plates and layering them, so the
Yeah.
fall and the hit, that's all there.
Legit.
Like the trees with the what's it called, floating down, it's like he was nailing it. And
Wow.
then I ended up doing Christian Fiorina, who had no film experience at all. He
Hmm.
had a couple of really awesome tricks up his sleeve with doing the blood stuff. We rigged up these like hoses coming up the back of the neck, and I'm just we had only one take, and once the blood started flowing, it's too cold to reset. We don't
Yeah.
we like, and I'm literally just like, okay, come. It's like, well, we're gonna have to blow all the audio. I'm like, I don't care. We're gonna fucking do it all in post. Just keep going. Squeeze it. Come on. Okay, bring the camera over here. Just come on this side, this side. So it's just so frantic, because it's like,
Yeah.
as soon as that blood is out, you can't put it back in, and as soon as you're out of the
Right.
blood, you're in the woods. And it's like, so
Right.
just get everything you can from every angle. And I'm grabbing Alex by like the back of the collar, I'm like, just over here, just over here.
Right.
Everyone's sticky, everyone's freezing, and Nas is, or Deanna is like falling around on the ground, just like there's not a ton of acting going on there, because everyone was
Right.
so uncomfortable, and it was so like sketchy, because if you screw that up, or like if that goes wrong, like you
Hmm.
don't have your payoff, and you don't,
Right.
we just were not in a position to ever be able to do that again. So
Right.
the stakes there were very, it was very much like, it was almost like filming a car crash is what it felt like, where you're like,
Oh,
try and
I'm
get every
sure.
angle, like this is exactly what would have happened, okay, start pressing on her neck, like like
Oh,
we didn't have
yeah.
time for a lot of, I don't know, doing it would be mad, but like we, like as far as safety, for Maddie, he was just kind of like, oh, I won't
Hmm.
die, right? I'm like, yeah, you'll be
Right.
fine. Yeah, and
Right. You're
yeah,
good, kid. It's the
you'll be
last
fine.
scene.
It's fine. Yeah, like this is it after this. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Where did your like your art design come into play being a director? Like, did it come in with choosing the cabin and how it looked and such?
Yeah, I mean, we got wildly lucky with a lot of things, and the cabin is definitely one of them. My friend Christian had a cabin up in Vermont, and we were originally going to shoot in his cabin, but it was like a really nice, slick A-frame, and I'm like, it's not gonna. This is just too pretty, and also, having one entire wall of wind of reflective glass is kind of hard to shoot in. So we're like, all right, this is gonna be
Right.
bad. And we were driving around, and we got a little lost, and right up the hill, we found that cabin, and it was like almost in like disuse. Like people hadn't been there for a little while. Couldn't find out who it was. I had to go to like the town and look up the records, and I found out the woman who owned it was dead, but her daughter lived in Brooklyn, so I tracked her down. And so, long story short, we were able to get the cabin for like almost not nothing, but pretty damn close.
Right.
Which is like, that's a huge part, huge part of your budget. And then since Christian's cabin was right, like, maybe 200 yards through the woods, we could sleep most of the crew there and then just keep that set as a fully live set. And since I didn't have art department, Jess Ginsburg, who's a fantastic production designer who I'd worked with back again from Syracuse, I was like, listen, help come up for the first 3 days before we're shooting. I will buy everything. I'll bring it up there. We'll dress the whole house. And then she couldn't stay. So I just became the art department going forward. So once she was gone, it was pretty much me just, moving different pieces and trying to dress it as much as we could. So we got it to kind of a place where it was kind of like a living dollhouse that we could just kind of work in and kind of shoot everywhere. And then the shrine was like, that's when I was really like, all right, I did this for movies. I want to do this for my movie. So that shrine and those slow-mos, the pans across, like that's my grandfather in one of those photos.
Oh,
like
wow.
all like that's his dog tags. Like there's so many things I found in Japan and like little bits and stuff that, doing all the dust to make it feel old. And that's where I tried to really, lend my art, and then like a lot of like the skull motifs and the jawbones and the M16 and all those like prop pieces. That boar that's in one shot, I killed that boar in Florida, and it was like, oh, this will be great in the movie. Stick it on the wall. Yeah.
Right,
So it's so yeah, I it would have been nice to have an actual art department. I'm like literally I'm wallpapering while I'm like giving, direction before we start shooting. I'm like, no joke. Cause it was that tight. So I did get to play a little bit in that, but it absolutely took away from my concentration with the directing.
Wow.
So it just stretched me thin in a way that's almost irresponsible, because you can't do that. I thought I could, it was just too much. So that is it's not necessarily a regret. And also I think it looks good. So I'm happy with that. But like, next time, oh man, like we'll have some more prep. We'll have some people that people that are better than me. That's all I ever want, is just people that are better than me to do that job. Because and also, the cabin it's the third character in the movie. It really is. 100%. And the fact that it's, possessed or inhabited by this other factor meant that it had to kind of like, it had to really be somewhere that you felt and could smell and all those kind of things. And I hope it came across.
Right. No, it does. It feels like a ghost movie trapped inside a psychological terror almost.
I'm using that. That's good. What's the minute marker? I'm gonna come back and I'm going to transcode. That's literally going to be the blurb at the bottom of the trailers now.
Amazing.
I swear to God.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What is your thought on maybe physical media on this? Like, this is streaming on two well-known platforms, but it sounds like you have a lot of behind-the-scenes stories or some commentary to it. I don't want this to only be the only commentary track. Do you feel maybe one day this could get a physical media?
Yeah, it's always like our goal with this was to just kind of like, get Shudder to buy it outright and then do the next movie. Like that was like the goal. And if anything, I think the thing that I would want to be physical is I want the album like printed on like a proper, on vinyl. That would be the coolest thing for me, because the soundtrack I worked with my thank you so much, my dear friend Elvin Shabazian and Joel and John of the Weathermen. they're like unbelievable dudes, and I happen to be the brother-in-law of Elvin. That's the only reason that he was able to come and do this as a favor. He's incredible.
Favor.
It's the only way you're gonna get him, man. I could never afford it. He's got like a bunch of Grammys. I could never even I couldn't have got his email. Like it wouldn't have happened. He's literally like working with like, well, I won't name drop for him, but he's doing some cool stuff. And he always wanted to do a movie soundtrack, and I was like, dude, like I told you I was going to come to you when I had something. This is it. And I came to him before we ever started shooting, so because I knew horror movie, like it had to have a badass soundtrack. You can't, like, it just doesn't work any other way. So bringing those guys on board and then going up there and then bringing back my like first early cuts, and then just getting in the room and just letting them rip on it and directing all those scenes, because so much of it is like, oh, it's got to swell right here, and then, oh, it's got to cut right here. Like that's the most fun of the BTS stuff, is just, us four guys just like watching the movie 1,000 times, just doing tiny little sound cues and massaging it, and then me going cutting the edit a little bit to fit to their music sometimes.
Right.
So it's funny, the least physical thing is the thing I want to be physical the most, which is the music. So I don't know if that works.
Hearing this and hearing how this got made, it just seems like you got every single A-game person that could be a part of it. You made it via your hands, and it's out there to the world for everybody to see. And I'm telling you, it is well worth a watch. What's your next thing? Because it's in the can, it's done, it's out there to the world. There's got to be something that you're looking forward to now that your child is here.
Yeah. He's 2.5, and he's
now
ripping.
It's time for him to be in a movie.
Oh my dude, honestly, that was one of the things. I'm like, well, I can have a creepy kid now. Like I can have a ghost dead child. Like, if I can get him to stop squirming for 30 seconds and stay in the frame.
Right.
It's a good question, because I've been working on a couple writing projects which are World War II based, which would be awesome. And there is like kind of a horror element to that, but not in a like, adding supernatural stuff to it, but just shot through the lens of a horror movie. So that's something that I've been working on for a couple years with my buddy Chad Simpson, who he's another Syracuse guy that we worked on he helped with this movie in a big way. But there's this other project that I've been hell-bent on doing. Also, I kind of came up with it during the pandemic when I was just eating a ton of mushrooms and thinking about the weirdest shit I could think about. It's called Earth Mother is Watching, and it's a phantasmagoric eco-revenge movie about a young female Amazonian learning to be a shaman, and her jungle village is destroyed by this evil mining corporation, and she evokes the power of the Earth Mother to exact horrific psychedelic revenge on them.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's the problem with that one is it's a couple football fields away from,
right.
Like you need a lot. You need some serious
effects.
You need some money for that, man. You need some big money. So we've been trying to find that movie that fits between the one together and that one. And honestly, literally today and yesterday, Eric, my writing partner and producer on this movie, who has done everything with, he's been my ride or die, and we made this movie together. He hit me with this like incredible pitch yesterday, and it's all I can think about. And I think it's such a good fit for what we can do next, building on this experience, because we had to learn so much and make so many relationships and start from absolute zero. Now with this next one, I think it's a horror, it's a black horror comedy, but not like a schlocky kind, more of like a, I don't know. I think it's got some mood, it's got some vibes. I think it's going to be really cool. And so awesome. That's the next movie. Yeah, we're looking for that, like a 2-year runway to put it together, package it, get some names aboard, hopefully, and maybe premiere at Screamfest 2026 or something like that. That would be the goal.
Right.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, let's pretend that, like, this movie's here. Your next project. You sound like you really want to dive in true history. What's a dream history thing that you would love to put on film?
Oh, it's such a good question. Well, so the one that I've been writing intensely, and we've got like our whole, it would be a series. It's a show document, and it's called. You ever see that photo on D-Day with the American soldiers, and they've got the Mohawks and their face painting?
Yeah.
It's about that guy, Jake McNeese, and I've done a ton of research on him. We put together the story about him. It's called Filthy 13, and we're shopping it. We're working on it. I think it's a incredible property that is gonna be happening at some point, because it's just such it's we've been deprived of one of the most badass American stories, and no one seems to know about it. And I feel like it's my absolute duty to like put this guy and his utter insane experience in the war on film. And it's not only as a horror, it's a horror movie, it's an adventure story, it's a psychological thriller, and it's all real. And I think that like we got a couple of tricks up our sleeve with how we want to tell the story and how that'll kind of fit into a horror lens. So that specifically that's the one that I want to go all in on for sure.
That's amazing. Well, that will be our future project that we talked to Will about. Right now, you can check out Will's movie Alone Together on Prime Video and Tubi right now. Before I let you go, please plug whatever you want to, Instagrams, YouTubes, whatever you want.
Oh man, no, just hit that Tubi link, man. Hit the Alone Together Tubi link, because like every one of those clicks feeds the algorithm, and the algorithm, can you edit that for me later? The algorithm
sure.
is hungry and it needs to be fed, and we are virtually unknowns, but I believe that once this is seen, more people will want to see it. So help us with that, please. Just spread the word, put us on the map, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on. I hope everything comes to fruition. It sounds like you're starting off on the right path, brother, and I'm looking forward to your future.
Zach, you're a hero. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, man.
We'll never come back again. It's not again.